Damn it, I love you. God, what did I ever do to you? Why can't you ever show me even the slightest bit of kindness? See, he said he wants to find me in the next life. He said he loved me. 3 years are up. Don't hold on. Ethan, it's time to go. I will love you forever. I broke up with my girlfriend right after her family was destroyed. 3 years later, she returned, a success story, married to a rising star in the business world who was better looking and more thoughtful than I ever was. During an interview with Forbes, the reporter asked her, "Now that you've reached the pinnacle of success, are there any lingering wishes you have?" She held her husband's hand and chuckled softly. "I just want to know how the man who dumped me all those years ago is doing now." The reporter paused for a moment before answering. "He's doing very poorly." She nodded, satisfied. "Good to hear." But before he passed away, he left behind a diary. Her expression froze on her face. It's filled with your name. It details the desperate nights after you broke up, when he couldn't bring himself to turn back. After hearing the host's words, Emma Thompson, who had been holding her husband Julian Vance's hand, faltered for a second. She then composed herself, offering a flawless, poised smile to the camera. "Whatever happened to him has nothing to do with me." The host, looking surprised, quickly moved on to the next topic. An hour later, the interview was over. Julian had a business trip, so he and Emma went their separate ways. As for me, I trailed behind Emma like a shadow all the way back to her apartment. 3 years ago, my torment from cancer finally ended. For some reason, though, my soul became tethered to Emma. Watching her embrace another man, seeing them so in love, it would be a lie to say my heart didn't ache with bitterness. But there was nothing I could do. After all, I was the one who pushed her away. Emma walked quickly, heading straight for her room. She picked up a package that had arrived 3 days ago, one she had yet to open. It had shown up suddenly, with no return address or sender's name. She'd initially dismissed it as a prank, even considering tossing it out. Emma's breath was shallow and quick. She grabbed a pair of scissors and sliced the package open with a clean cut. Inside, a journal with yellowed edges lay silently, and her eyes fell upon it. It wasn't just Emma who was stunned. I was too. I had specifically asked my friend, Frank Miller, to get rid of that journal for me. I never imagined it would end up here. Overcoming my shock, I leaned in closer to Emma. I wanted to see her reaction. Would she be happy? Sad? Angry? To my surprise, none of my predictions came true. Emma's expression was completely placid, as if she were handling a perfectly ordinary object. She carried the journal over to her bed, sat down, and switched on the lamp on her nightstand. The soft glow instantly filled the dark room, casting a gentle light that made my Emma, already so beautiful, look even more stunning. As I was studying her face, Emma took a deep breath and slowly opened the journal. The first thing she saw was my signature, flamboyant handwriting, a script I had always been proud of. On the page, I had written, "Ethan loves Emma forever," in 12 different languages. I waited, but a long moment passed, and she didn't turn the page. When I looked up, I saw she was staring at the words, her gaze so intense it seemed like it could burn a hole right through the paper. Was I imagining it? I crouched down, moving closer, and I could have sworn I saw a faint, almost imperceptible redness in the corners of her eyes. As I drew near, she slowly turned to the next page. February 14th, 2022. Sunny. Mood. The darkest day of my life. Today is Valentine's Day, and it's the day I've decided to break up with my Emma. I was diagnosed with cancer. Stage 3. I promised her I'd propose on our 10th anniversary. That day is here, but now I can't keep my promise. I can't drag her down. She's too wonderful to waste the rest of her life in grief because of me. It's better to rip the bandage off quickly. I'll be the villain in this story. Emma, please don't hate me. Emma slammed the journal shut. Her fingertips were trembling, her eyes wide with disbelief. How could this be? I heard her whisper, her gaze unintentionally sweeping past where I stood. The sudden eye contact made my breath catch in my throat. Emma, could she see me? But just as quickly, she looked away and tossed my journal onto the nightstand. Emma frowned and scoffed. What a pathetic trick. He sees I'm successful now and wants me back. He should just say it instead of pulling these manipulative stunts. I froze. I knew exactly what she was implying. I was an orphan. The Thompson family sponsored my education, giving me a chance at life. And yet, right after their company went bankrupt and her parents took their own lives, I broke up with her. I can still hear the words I said to her that day. Don't stand in my way of a better life. It's strange. They say you lose all human emotions when you die. So why does my heart still ache like this? My Emma had to endure her family's ruin and then being abandoned by her boyfriend, one after the other. Looking at her, I couldn't hide the pain I felt for her. My poor Emma, how helpless and lost she must have felt. Emma, oblivious to my thoughts, just pulled the comforter over her head, cocooning herself within it. After a few rustles, everything went still. She must have been exhausted and fallen asleep. I knelt by her bed, and in the faint glow of the lamp, I dared only to watch the outline of her form beneath the covers. February 24th, 2022. Overcast. Mood awful. It's been 10 days since I broke up with Emma. I had Frank set up a small investment fund under his name and put all my life savings into it for her. It wasn't much, but I hoped it would help her through the immediate crisis. Frank tried to convince me to keep the money for my treatments. I was touched, but I refused. Without the Thompsons, I would have died in a back alley years ago. As long as my Emma can live a good life, it doesn't matter what happens to me. I just hope that when I see Mr. Thompson in the great beyond, he can forgive me for being so selfish. When I came to, I saw Emma had opened the journal again. She had flipped to the entry from 10 days later. I stood behind her, my heart sinking as I saw how bloodshot her eyes were. Was it because of what she read, or just from a lack of sleep? Either way, it hurt me to see her like that. Soon enough, I had my answer. "Mrs. Gable, could you finish making that broth for me? I haven't been sleeping well lately." Her words sent a pang through me. I'm dead, and I'm still indulging in these foolish, sentimental thoughts. I laughed at myself, but seeing Emma sitting there with her eyes closed in exhaustion, I instinctively moved forward, wanting to gently massage her temples just like I used to. Being a Thompson came with so many obligations she couldn't escape. She used to come home from those corporate dinners, curl up in my arms, and ask me to rub her aching temples. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, and our gazes met in the reflection of a nearby mirror. Emma didn't react, but I flinched, pulling my hand back in shock. A moment later, I shook my head and chuckled. Of course, she couldn't see me. "Emma," I couldn't stop myself from whispering, "please get some rest. It hurts me to see you like this." Words that were once so easy to say had now become an impossible luxury. March 1st, 2022. Sunny. Mood awful. The doctor greeted me this morning with some good news. He said the cancer is progressing faster than they expected. Now, even getting out of bed is a struggle. Am I going to die soon? Can this torment finally be over? Frank has been here with me the last few days. He dropped everything to come. He brought good news, too. He said my Emma is taking things one step at a time, and her career is really starting to take off. I tried to smile when he told me, but I ended up coughing up blood instead. It terrified him. It's nothing really. I'm used to it by now. But the thought of dying, it just makes me worry about my Emma. Reading that entry brought back the memory of that chaotic day. It was the first time Frank had seen me that week. I had always put on a brave face, telling him I was getting better, but he saw the truth for himself. There was no hiding it anymore. He'd come to visit that day and brought me my favorite strawberries, but I couldn't eat them anymore. Oh, right, I'm actually allergic to strawberries. They were Emma's favorite fruit, and because I loved her, I learned to love them too. Seeing how pale I was, Frank just broke down in tears. He pulled out his phone to call Emma, but I grabbed his arm and stopped him. "You can't tell her," I insisted. "She deserves to live a wonderful life, not be trapped by me." It was the first time I'd ever seen Frank cry like that. My own eyes welled up, but deep down I was happy because my Emma was finally getting back on her feet. March 15th, 2022. Overcast. Mood good. I'm going to see my Emma today. The doctors wouldn't discharge me, but that's fine. I snuck out anyway. It's her first big speech since becoming a star investor on Wall Street. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The wig Frank got me is hideous, though. It does not, as he claimed, perfectly restore my handsome features. Still, it's better than scaring people with my bald head. My Emma is as beautiful as ever. It's true. She's doing so much better without me. But I heard someone say she's getting engaged. Emma, I want you to be happy, but I hope you don't forget me too quickly. I don't know why, but I've been falling into these sudden, deep sleeps lately. The good thing is, every time I wake up, I'm still here with my Emma. I don't have to miss her by looking at old photographs anymore. Even though she can't see me, I can stay by her side. But she's reading my journal again. Is it just something to pass the time for her? I sat down next to her, my eyes on the journal. She spent more time reading it this time. But for some reason, as she read, she suddenly covered her face with the book and started to cry softly. Was she crying for me? I knelt, wanting to reach out and wipe away her tears, but then my gaze fell on her phone screen and I froze. The photo on Emma's phone showed her husband, Julian, kissing another woman. She was crying over another man. I knew it. How could she possibly still be crying for me? In her mind, I must be completely irredeemable, just a lowlife who would do anything for money. But even so, I clenched my fists. How dare he betray the girl I put on a pedestal? My rage had nowhere to go, no way to be released. So I did the only thing I could. I sat on the floor by her feet and quietly kept her company. It's the only thing I can do for her now. March 20th, 2022. Overcast. Mood awful. My Emma announced her engagement to Julian Vance today. I should be happy for her. I don't know why I cried. What right do I have to cry? I'm the one who pushed her away. I snuck out of the hospital again, hiding near the old Thompson house just to catch a glimpse of her. I'm so stooped and pale now I look like a ghost, but she still saw me. We made eye contact by accident, and I startled her. I reacted fast, though. Even with my heart about to explode out of my chest, I ran before she could recognize me. But I don't know, maybe I was just hearing things. I thought I heard her call my name. My Emma composed herself and went back to reading my journal. Perhaps she was trying to find some comfort in it, I thought. But for some reason, I've been growing more transparent these past few days. Does this mean my time is finally up? I looked down at my nearly transparent hands and blinked. My memories have been getting hazy since yesterday, even though for 3 years they've been crystal clear. I can endure anything, but I can't bear the thought of forgetting Emma. I looked at her, my heart wanting to weep, but no matter how many times I blinked, no tears would come. How can a ghost cry? I forced my eyes wide, try to burn the image of my Emma into my mind before I'm gone for good. I don't want to forget her. I must have been staring too intently because I didn't even notice when her gaze lifted from the journal and settled right on me. Ethan, in a trance, our eyes met. Her lips parted, and she spoke my name clearly and deliberately. March 30th, 2022. Sunny. Mood awful. Today is Emma's engagement party. For so many reasons, I wanted to be there, but I just don't have the strength anymore. But Frank went. He brought back a picture for me. She was so beautiful in it, more beautiful than I could have imagined. She was smiling so brightly. She must have forgotten me. That's good. She won't have to suffer with me anymore, won't have to settle for cheap food from street carts. Her fiancé isn't poor like me. He can give her the best, most extravagant wedding. He can afford the dress she's always dreamed of. She got so thin when she was with me. But now, my Emma can finally be happy. Emma, I love you. I didn't know why Emma had said my name. A part of me was hopeful, but another part was terrified. People always say that when a spirit lingers around the living, it brings them bad luck. I tried everything I could to leave at first, but every time I'd wake up, I'd be right back by her side. As I watched her life improve and she never seemed to notice me, I started to relax. But now, that old anxiety was back. But she only said my name once before returning to the journal. I was confused, but it's not like I could ask her. I don't even have the power to speak to her. Emma didn't say anything else. One living person, one ghost, coexisting in strange harmony. After a long time, so long that I felt a strange numbness, Emma stood up. Where was she going? I scrambled to get up and follow, but a pins and needles sensation shot through my leg and I stumbled. Luckily, Emma seemed to have forgotten something and turned back after walking a few steps. The feeling returned to my leg just in time for me to follow her out to the car. I recognized the route. She was heading to the old monastery upstate again. 3 years ago, Emma, who had never been religious, started making these trips. I figured she was praying for her parents' souls and for her and her husband's happiness. Spirits can't enter holy places, so I did what I always do. I waited for her under the large oak tree near the entrance. But this time, she was inside much longer than usual. I waited from the afternoon until the sun set, and from dusk until it was completely dark. Finally, under the dim glow of a lamppost, I saw her weary figure emerge. I rushed towards her, but stopped short when I saw her eyes. They were completely red and swollen. How could a simple prayer session leave her looking like this? Did someone upset her? I looked towards the monastery doors, and my gaze met the priest's as he saw her off. He wasn't looking at Emma. His gaze was fixed directly on me, and it was filled with a strange, knowing look. My heart began to race. Could he actually see me? Before I could process it, Emma had started the car. I had no choice but to get in. Seeing her brow furrowed and her eyes so red, I was overcome with worry, but there was nothing I could do. April 1st, 2022. Overcast. Mood awful. I think I'm getting worse. I was watching the live stream of Emma's speech and suddenly coughed up a lot of blood. I didn't call for a nurse because I wanted to finish watching. They weren't recording it, and I didn't want to miss a single second of her on screen, but I didn't realize how weak I'd become. The nurse said she found me passed out in a pool of my own blood when she came in for her rounds. She said I scared her half to death. I still feel bad about that poor nurse. And in the end, I didn't even get to finish watching Emma's speech. Now I can't even walk, let alone sit through a 90-minute presentation. When we got home, Emma went straight to her bedroom and closed the door, leaving me outside. A ghost can walk through walls, of course, but I knew she probably needed some space. I didn't know what had happened, but giving her that space was the only thing I could do. I sighed and slid down the wall to sit on the floor. I seemed even more transparent today than I was yesterday. My eyes drifted to the clock on the wall. May 18th, 2025. I frowned. And then it hit me, right? I died on May 20th. In the blink of an eye, it's almost been 3 years. I looked at the closed door and thought that if my presence wasn't hurting her, then staying by her side like this was a way of keeping my promise. It was enough to see her happy with my own eyes, even if I wasn't the one who gave her the happiness. As long as she was happy, that's all that mattered. April 5th, 2022. Sunny. Mood awful. Frank visited again today. He brought me Emma's wedding photos. He said she cried a few times during the shoot. Maybe she was thinking of me, but I doubt it. It was probably what she used to call happy tears. I truly want her to be happy. I want her to have a better life. Oh, I got her a wedding present too. I'll have Frank give it to her from him. It's just the diamond ring I bought for her so long ago. I guess I'll never be able to give it to her now. When Emma finally emerged, her expression was back to its usual composure. Looking at her, I felt my own eyes well up. 3 years had made her more mature, but also colder. She used to be so bright and optimistic. Now, she just seemed numb, her eyes filled with a deep, endless exhaustion. As the moonlight streamed through the window and fell upon her, I made a silent prayer. I would trade my next life, and the one after that, for Emma to have a peaceful and happy future. I would pay any price for her happiness and safety. I just hoped fate would finally be kind to her. A noise at the door announced Julian's return. I looked down, feeling dejected, and was about to find a corner to hide in so I wouldn't have to watch them, when a young woman's voice called out, "Emma." I looked up sharply. Standing in the doorway was a young woman in a pale yellow dress, her stomach slightly rounded. My internal alarms blared. It was the girl from the photograph, the one Julian was kissing. I shot to my feet, but could only watch helplessly as Julian led the girl right through my transparent form. "Julian," I yelled out in a panic. "How could you betray Emma?" My voice was full of fury, but no one heard it. Emma said nothing, simply watching them with a detached expression. Julian gave her a small smile and pulled a document from his briefcase. As I got closer, I saw it was a divorce agreement. My eyes went wide, and I began to tremble with rage. "Let's get a divorce," he said. I looked at Emma, my heart breaking for her. She must be devastated. I had watched her do so much for Julian over the years, and it pained me to see it. She would wake up early to make him broth, stay up late to take care of him when he came home drunk. She, who always joked about having 2 left hands, even knitted him a scarf for the winter. She did all of that for him. How could he? How dare he betray her? I clenched my fists, my vision blurring. A breeze rustled the curtains, and through them, I saw Emma calmly take the papers from him. "Okay." In the moment before my consciousness faded, I heard her simple reply. April 10th, 2022. Raining. Mood good. It's my 40th day of chemo. I begged Frank to sneak me out of the hospital against the doctor's orders because today is Emma's wedding. Even though I'm not the groom, I just wanted to see her happy with my own eyes. I begged and pleaded, and I think Frank finally agreed out of pity. I hid in the very back of the hall and saw her in her wedding dress. But my eyes filled with tears, and I couldn't see her face clearly. When I came to again, my form was so transparent it was barely there. I rushed to find Emma and saw her on the balcony, staring into space, a look of profound sadness on her face, with fresh tear stains on her cheeks. A pang of sorrow hit me. I just stood there beside her, keeping her company. She must be in so much pain after losing Julian. I watched her, my heart aching, completely powerless to even wipe away her tears. So I stayed by her side, never leaving. I was afraid she might do something drastic. Everyone called Emma Thompson a prodigy, a once-in-a-generation talent on Wall Street. But I knew the truth. I knew that every one of those titles was built on swallowed pride, on countless sleepless nights, on a relentless step-by-step climb. My Emma worked harder and was more dedicated than anyone I've ever known. Nothing she achieved ever came easily. Emma sat there, my journal resting on her lap. She looked up at the moon and whispered, "God, what did I ever do to you? Why can't you ever show me even the slightest bit of kindness?" She spoke as if all the energy had been drained from her body. A wave of sorrow washed over me, and tears I couldn't shed filled my eyes. "Emma," I whispered, afraid that any sound might shatter this fragile woman before me. April 27th, 2022. Sunny. Mood awful. I had Frank take me back to my old hometown today. It's where Emma and I first met. There are so many memories here. As my time runs out, I wanted this to be the last place I visited. A selfish wish, I suppose. I tried to prepare myself, but I just couldn't bring myself to face her happiness head on. The jealousy is eating me alive. I'm going insane with it, knowing another man has her now. But what can I do? I'm like a rat in the sewer, only able to watch her happiness from the shadows. As my own vision blurred, my eyes focused on the words in the journal. I remembered that day clearly. Frank and I, back in our small hometown. I took him to all our old spots, telling him stories about me and Emma, about all the little moments we shared in each place. He teased me, calling me a hopeless romantic, but he was wrong. I was hopelessly in love with Emma. I knew with absolute certainty that there would never be another woman for me. We talked for hours that day, walking until we were exhausted, then resting, then walking again. Even when my legs started to give out, when every breath was a monumental effort, I didn't want to stop. I knew that this might be my last chance, and the next one wouldn't come until the next life. I smiled and had Frank take a picture of me. I looked much worse than I imagined, but I was content. When I came back to myself, I realized Emma was gone. I looked around frantically, only to find she had gone back to her room and was lying in bed. That was good. As long as she was resting, that was all that mattered. I knelt by her bed, studying her face. They say you get a strong premonition when you're close to the end. I don't know why, but my memories have been fading lately. I knew my time in this 3-year limbo was finally coming to an end. But before I left, I wanted one last look at Emma. I needed to burn her image into my soul. I could not forget her. May 1st, 2022. Sunny. Mood awful. The price for my little trip was a transfer to the ICU. I collapsed while I was out and apparently scared some poor bystander. I feel a little bad about that. After that, the hospital assigned a nurse to watch me around the clock. There's no getting out now, but the nurses don't have to worry. I can't even eat or use the bathroom on my own anymore. I look pathetic. If Emma saw me like this, would she feel sorry for me? No, forget it. I wouldn't want to scare her. The sun looks so warm outside. I wonder if I'll see it tomorrow. It took everything I just to write this. The handwriting is a mess. When morning came, I was surprised to see Frank. He'd gotten more handsome over the years, though still not quite as sharp as I was in my prime. Frank was carrying a familiar box. I looked closer. It was the box where I'd kept my last possessions. I shot up in shock. How could Frank bring that stuff to Emma? A dead man's things are bad luck. He can't bring that curse on her. I reached out to grab the box, but a voice stopped me cold. He's still here, isn't he? Frank asked, looking around the room with a frown. Emma turned her head, her eyes flicking to where I stood. He is. What did she mean? My vision swam, and my breath hitched. Was it what I thought it was? Was Frank asking about me? Could Emma see me? After hearing Emma's reply, Frank leaned back and a bitter smile crossed his face. So would you call this star-crossed? The sadness in his eyes was palpable. You two loved each other so much, but you couldn't be together. His words struck me like a bolt of lightning, and I staggered. No, Emma said, her gaze soft. She met Frank's confused look with a small smile. We were fated to meet, and we were fated to be. A flash of sunlight caught my eye. When my vision cleared, I noticed it. On Emma's finger was the diamond ring I never got to give her. May 19th, 2022. Sunny. Mood awful. I feel like I'm dying. I hope I can find you in the next life, Emma. I love you. There were dried blood stains on the page of the journal. I remembered being rushed back to the ICU as I was writing that. That time, I never came out. See? Emma's voice was thick with emotion. Her eyes were red as she handed the journal to Frank. He said he wants to find me in the next life. He said he loved me. As she spoke, the tears she'd been holding back finally broke free. The diamond on her finger flashed as she sobbed, gasping for breath. Suddenly, everything started to connect in my mind. The way she would sometimes talk to herself, as if speaking to someone only she could see. The way she would do things right after I had wished for them. I'd wish for her to rest, and she would rest. I'd wish for her to eat, and she would eat. I'd wish for her to drink less, and she would. Silent tears streamed down my face. You fool, I thought, a storm of emotions raging inside me. Why? It's the 20th, Emma whispered suddenly. Ethan, after 3 years, I finally heard her say my name with such tenderness. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she smiled at me gently. 3 years are up. It's time for you to go. I saw the votive candle by her bedside, the one with my name on it, and I finally understood. All those trips to the monastery for the last 3 years, they were all for me. I watched my soul begin to dissipate. No, I shook my head, reaching for Emma's hand, but before I could touch her, my form dissolved into nothing. No, Emma, Ethan, I love you. In the last moment, before I vanished completely, I heard her final words to me. Frank turned away, his eyes red, unable to watch any longer. Emma, I'm so sorry, he said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. He's finally gone, Emma said with a smile, though tears streamed down her face. Someone as good as him, he'll surely have a good next life. She might have been talking to herself, or she might have been talking to Frank. Ethan, she whispered, stroking the diamond on her finger. You were the only one I ever loved in this life. You silly fool. Did you really think I couldn't see you? I knew you were here from the very first moment you appeared. Frank let out a heavy sigh. They say fate doesn't keep true lovers apart, but sometimes it plays the cruelest jokes, making two people love each other so deeply, only to deny them the chance to be together. Frank, thank you, Emma said with a faint smile. Ethan was lucky to have a friend like you. With that, Emma stood up. I'm a little tired, she said, her body swaying slightly, but her smile was full of anticipation. I'm going to get some sleep. Make yourself at home. And with that, she headed upstairs. The next day, the news reported that the star investor had taken her own life with sleeping pills, citing her husband's infidelity as the cause. Only two people knew the real reason. Emma had gone to find Ethan. Epilogue. Emma's perspective. My name is Emma Thompson. I was born into a good family. My parents were successful and respected, and I believe the world was a beautiful place. But once, when I was a little girl on a trip with my parents, I got lost and ran into a young boy. He was covered in dirt, but his eyes held a brightness that seemed far beyond his years. He didn't have any money, but he wasn't a thief. In fact, he helped me find my way back to my father. I want to buy him dinner to thank him, but I found him being bullied by some other kids. So instead, I convinced my parents to sponsor his education. He worked incredibly hard, finishing at the top of his class every year and earning a full scholarship to college. Over the years, spending so much time together, I fell in love with him, and he fell in love with me. But the difference in our backgrounds was a weight he always carried, something that made him feel like he could never measure up. He worked so hard, harder than anyone, so hard it hurt me to watch. But whenever I brought it up, he would just give me that big, goofy grin and say he was doing it all so I would have a good life. He never understood that as long as I was with him, life could never be hard. Eventually, my parents gave us their blessing. We could finally go on dates and have dinner together without hiding. We made a promise. On our 10th anniversary, he would propose. But he broke that promise. When my family's company was destroyed and my parents took their own lives, he was the only person I'd left to lean on. And he left me. He just walked away. In that moment, my entire world collapsed. I started to question everything. Was it all a lie? Ethan was a better actor than I ever could have imagined, but I couldn't afford a break. I had to rebuild what my parents had lost. I threw myself into my work, numbing the pain with alcohol at night, but I'd still dream of his cruel words. He said I'd be better off without him. I clawed my way to the top, leaving a trail of blood and tears, until I finally reached a position where no one would ever dare to disrespect me again. Then, one day, I saw him near my old house. He was gone, his face deathly pale. I thought he was supposed to be doing better without me. I called out his name, but he didn't turn around. To spite him, or maybe just to get his attention, I made a gamble. I got engaged to another man, and I, who had always been private, made a very public announcement. But still, he didn't come. I told myself that even if he only came back for my money, I would take him. But he never came. The man I was engaged to, Julian, was in love with someone else. A woman his family would never approve of. When he found out I was in the same situation, we made an arrangement. We would get married, but live our own separate lives. And then, finally, I saw Ethan again. But to my shock, I realized he cast no shadow. I suddenly understood. I spent hours searching online, and I found the truth. The man I loved was dead. Miraculously, I could see him. I could even hear him speak. But he seemed terrified that I would notice him. So I had no choice but to pretend he wasn't there. For his sake, I started visiting the monastery, a place I'd never been to in my life. The priest there told me it was because Ethan had an unresolved attachment to this world. But what could it be? While I was wondering, I ran into Frank, who had also come to pray. He told me everything. He told me about the cancer, about the secret fund, about how much that silly, wonderful fool had suffered, all in silence. If his lingering attachment was my happiness, then I would be happy for him. I made a deal with Julian to put on a show, and it worked. Ethan was completely fooled. Every time I heard his jealous whispers, I had to hide my smile. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. The priest told me his attachment was fading. He must have truly believed I was happy. The priest also told me that his spirit would finally move on the 3rd anniversary of his death. I was relieved. He never knew that every time he slept, I would watch him studying his face. But just when his time was almost up, that journal appeared. His words were like knives, carving a gaping, bleeding wound in my heart. I couldn't stop myself from crying, and I had to use Julian as an excuse one last time. But Ethan, you have to know, you are the only person in this world who could ever make me feel that way. The more I read, the more my heart broke. But I held on until the end. Seeing you finally able to move on, I felt at peace. But Ethan, a world without you is a torment I cannot endure. So, I'm coming to be with you.